Hello and welcome to our web
Thank you.
chat on KYC. We are joined by Dan Matthies, Head of KYC at Bloomberg, who has 20 plus years experience in a range of jobs in Bloomberg, and is now in one of the most important demanding jobs for corporate treasurers. Neugroup estimate that an average time spent on KYC in a typical multinational corporation, the Treasury Department, is 25 hours a week. But my first question, Dan, before we get on to the detail, is what is KYC in your opinion? What does it really mean?
Thank you. KYC for us is really focused on the client experience and the time that the client could save. In its purest form, most people understand KYC as the exchange of documents and data, but now they prefer to look at it as more of an end-to-end process. There's time taken to source those documents before sending. There's time taken to understand what's in those. There's a lack of organization where the same information is requested multiple times. And we also tend to see KYC as a catch-all, like the term that clients use referring to everything that they need to send: AML, KYC, bank account management. Two myths to clarify. One is that KYC is a problem for banks, but not for corporates. And we've had the luxury to be able to go out and speak to hundreds of corporates, literally thousands of buy side. And what we found is that 100% of them are frustrated by the process. As you said, Jack, they're spending an immense amount of time responding to emails that are coming into their inbox. The other is that KYC is a back office issue, not a front office issue. And when we ask clients, have you ever missed an opportunity? 91% of them look back and say, yeah, actually we have. Things took too long. We weren't able to do something that hurt our business. And as a result, a lot of them have considered operational aspects or areas like KYC when they decide who to do business with, making it very much a front office concern.
Improving the KYC experience is clearly the objective, but your approach is very different from other players. Can you explain?
Sure. Let's look at the problem that we're trying to solve, specifically focused on multinational corporates. But when you look at the idea of standardizing within a region or within a bank is possible, but trying to standardize across all the different permutations of different regions, different banks is nearly impossible. So we've taken an approach that we're not trying to standardize the answer, but we're trying to standardize the way that we store the information, the field definitions, the classes, the document taxonomy, and then regardless of what the questions are, we're able to automatically respond to those and save the corporate the time they would have to invest to do that manually.
And this gives you the flexibility to deal with every region in the world?
Over time, yes. You can anticipate what's going to be asked for. I'll share a personal story with you. I was lucky enough to be able to go trekking in the Himalayas. And we were off in the middle of Nepal. I hadn't seen vehicles for several days. And we come across restaurants that are at the top of a hill, very, very small. And when you walk up, you're expecting to see a menu that's very limited. But instead, they drop this massive menu on your table. It's got 10 pages. It's got a page for Mexican, a page for American, several pages for European, several pages for Asian. And you're in disbelief that they could have this much variety for what you might ask for. And sure enough, when you order off of any of the pages, back comes something. The reality is they were clever in the way that they reused the same ingredients several times. And they would look at what people would order and over time add up more and more items that they could service. It's the same concept where we don't know what the banks are going to ask for. You can never anticipate the question that will be asked. But if you've been able to organize the ingredients, in this case is the field definition, the documents that you have, regardless of what's asked for, you can fill that order. And over time, you'll start to understand corporate cases better and respond to those as well.
That requires a significant amount of flexibility, though, doesn't it?
It involves a lot of flexibility in taking different pieces of information and combining them to respond to the specific question or questions that are being asked.
Now we're moving on to look at your actual solution with the Entity Exchange. Can you explain how it works and how you build in flexibility for the large companies?
Our solution is a data-centric solution. You can see at the center of this is the entity profile, and that's a living set of information. I like to think of it almost like my LinkedIn profile, where I've got a personal profile organized and I can control who has access and share information. Same concept, except it's an entity profile. And as a client, I'm organizing my information there instead of some of the drawbacks of SharePoint and internal systems. And then I've got control over who I permission that data to. On the banking side, they'll consume whatever information is there and be able to request more. And so over time, the set of data that's there becomes complete and able to handle any situation.
What happens if I decide to add a new bank? Is the same process? How does it work?
The reality is the new bank will ask for a similar set of information as previous banks. And the holy grail is that we've got the information that they need sitting in the profile. As the corporate, I can decide to permission that information to the bank. And if that's what they need in terms of their policy requirements, they can take it down, and all the time that would have been spent asking for that information, sourcing that information, sending that information, interpreting that information, confirming that information now saves the manual work for both the corporate and the bank. But more importantly, the time that would have been consumed or delays that you would have encountered can be avoided.
But this is okay for most companies, but the big ones need their own fields and things like that. How do you provide the flexibility that's demanded?
So one of the biggest challenges we've encountered is this concept of forms. Obviously, each bank will need a set of documents, and you can anticipate the scope of those documents. There's not a unlimited scope. But now move beyond that, and each bank will have a set of questions that they want to ask, and those questions can be unlimited in scope. What we've done to overcome that in terms of flexibility is to take all of the data that we've extracted from the documents, put it into a series of fields, as well as all of the answers that corporates have given to questions asked before, and put that into metadata as well. And the idea is, as a form comes over, we've mapped the questions against the data model. We've taken anything that we have and put it against that, show it to the corporate, allow them to see that the information's been populated, and let them confirm that what's there is representative of what they'd want to be there, and then send it back. And that flexibility has been really well received. Another example of that, by the way, is not responding to banks, but proactively filling out things like tax forms. You can imagine how much time it takes for a corporate to fill out, tax form after tax form, year after year. Rather than just taking a blank tax form, what information will be required, auto-populate those, let those be saved, and save an immense amount of time doing that manually.
So is this the key differentiator between your approach and the other approaches?
The key differentiator is that we've taken a data approach. It's about having data organized into a profile with a really thoughtful data model underneath, coupled with the community that we've built around this. If they're sharing that data approach, over time we'll be able to make it a data standard, not a standard set of information, but a standard approach to how that information is stored and exchanged. That will take back the manual time and delays that are spent today.
My problem is that there are lots of other suppliers of KYC type solutions. Is there an obvious way forward on this? What's going to happen?
A lot of things have been tried. Even today, predominantly email is being used, and that's natural. It's very, very flexible, but it's unsafe and it's unscalable. We've also seen banks invest a lot into bank-specific platforms. They obviously care about their clients. They want them to have a better experience, a faster onboarding. And we've seen a lot of regional, country-specific solutions put in place. But the reality is, for a multinational corporate, they don't live in one region. They don't deal with one bank. They're across many regions, many banks. And so what we try to anticipate is that they're going to have a lot of different scenarios. Just like my example before, I can order a lot of different things off the menu, but the ingredients have to stay the same. The ingredients can be used in many different ways to be able to respond to the different requests. That's the approach we're taking. We're being really thoughtful in how we organize the information that they have so they can respond to anything without creating manual work and without encumbering delays.
So that means a corporate could go with just the one solution, the Entity Exchange solution. They don't need to sign up for other things.
That's right. A corporate's only going to want to organize their information once, one set of controls over that information and who has access, one audit trail of where that information's been, and the ability to turn the off switch whenever they need. GDPR is a great example. At what point do I stop sharing information and ask those I've shared it with to delete that information? And how do I have one place to do that instead of several different systems? Banks, no doubt, will cater to their clients. If their clients in aggregate use different solutions or prefer email, certainly they'll cater to that. However, as a corporate client, I'm going to pick a solution. I'm going to stick to that solution. And I want to have one way of doing things. I'll pick the solution that's going to give me the best experience and the least amount of time that I need to invest.
One final question before we go to closing remarks is, how do you control the permissioning? Because that is, as you mentioned with GDPR, is a fundamental issue across the whole industry. How do you support the corporate doing that?
Information in the profile is organized and categorized in a lot of different ways, by document category, by entity, even by specific documents. We'll give clients the ability to do things quickly or to have granular control over the information that they permission. Ultimately, everything's being stored in a very safe way, and whoever they've decided to share it with is being open enough to be able to look into where it's being stored as opposed to actually transferring the information. So we believe from a security standpoint, we've got a superior approach to keep that information safe.
That is a very important window into what's happening. How would you sum up the overall framework of this pathway to KYC automation?
Like everything, it's a journey. As we've gone down this path with clients, they don't expect it to be perfect, but they recognize that the approach makes sense. And with time and with adoption, we'll be able to take away a huge pain point for them, give them a lot of time back, and allow them to take advantage of opportunities that otherwise they would miss.
KYC automation really is fundamental. Thank you.
Thank you, Jack.